June 2023 marked a significant milestone in my life. Leaving the comforting embrace of my parents and moving into this small studio apartment in North London was my unspoken declaration of adulthood. A tentative step into the independent world I had always dreamed of. The apartment, though old, with its faded paint and creaky floorboards that groaned with every step, was still my own private space, my sanctuary. The first few weeks passed uneventfully. I kept busy arranging my belongings, exploring the charming little cafes around the neighborhood, and relishing the sense of freedom I had never experienced before. Everything was fine until one rainy afternoon when I decided to post about a lost cat on a local online forum. The flyer, with its blurry photo of Whiskers, my neighbor's calico cat whom I was looking after, had been plastered all over lampposts and notice boards. Little did I know that this small act would be the beginning of a period of unease and terror. A man named Alistair contacted me via message. He said he had seen a cat resembling Whiskers near the park behind my building. His enthusiasm seemed a little excessive, but I brushed it off, thinking it was just the kindness of a stranger. We exchanged a few more messages and he started asking about me, about my apartment, about whether I lived alone. An unsettling feeling crept into my heart, like a discordant note in the peaceful melody of my new life. My mother's warnings about strangers online suddenly echoed in my ears, but I told myself I was being too suspicious. I wanted to prove to my parents that I could handle things on my own. We arranged to meet one Thursday afternoon so I could see if the cat he had found was indeed Whiskers. But Alistair never showed up. I texted him, but received no response. The initial annoyance gradually morphed into a vague worry. Why had he disappeared so abruptly? Had I been too trusting? The following days passed in an atmosphere of growing tension. I started noticing strange things around the apartment. Soft footsteps in the hallway late at night, even though I knew there was no one living on the floor above me. Fleeting shadows in the corner of my eye, vanishing before I could get a clear look. It felt like someone was watching me, an invisible pair of eyes hidden behind the thin walls. I tried to reassure myself that it was just my imagination playing tricks, that the loneliness of the new apartment was making me more sensitive. But deep down, a cold dread was slowly spreading. The peak of my unease arrived on a still Sunday night. The clock struck exactly 2 a.m. I was trying to drift off to sleep, but hazy images of Alistair and the shadows kept flitting through my mind. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the front door. As if someone was hitting it with a heavy object. My heart skipped a beat. I sat bolt upright in bed, listening in the darkness. A second knock came, this time even louder, followed by a hoarse call. "Sarah? Are you there?" That voice. I had heard it before. It was Alistair's voice, but it was completely different from the polite messages he had sent me. It sounded urgent, even threatening. A wave of sheer terror washed over me, cold and paralyzing. I didn't dare to breathe, trying to shrink into the darkness, hoping he would think I wasn't home and leave. But the knocking continued, becoming more and more insistent and violent. I could hear him muttering something, angry and incomprehensible words. Pale moonlight streamed through the window, casting eerie shadows on the walls. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying for this nightmare to end quickly. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the knocking stopped. I remained still in bed, listening to my own breathing. Silence enveloped the apartment, but it brought no peace, only amplified the fear within me. I knew Alistair was still out there somewhere in the darkness, and his eyes were probably still fixed on the thin door of my apartment. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. Every little sound, from the whistling wind outside the window to the creaking floorboards, made me jump. The feeling of unease and fear clung to me like an invisible phantom. Ever since that terrifying night, the independent life I had longed for has become an obsession. Every time I hear the doorbell ring late at night, or any strange noise in the apartment, my heart clenches with fear. The image of the door shaking under the heavy blows and Alistair's hoarse voice still haunt my dreams. I know that true peace has left this small apartment forever. and fear will continue to follow me for a long time to come. Liam sent me a link one gloomy Tuesday afternoon. It was about the abandoned Ashton Mill, located in the northern outskirts of Manchester. Old photographs flickered across the computer screen, showing a massive building with dark, empty windows like hollow eye sockets. What drew us in wasn't just its eerie appearance but also the local whispers of strange noises emanating from within at night. People said it was the groaning of workers who had died in a terrible accident years ago, or perhaps the mysterious whirring of machinery still somehow functioning. Curiosity, that urge to explore the forbidden, quickly took hold of us. We decided we would go there on a Friday night after making sure no one would bother us. That Friday night was pitch black, without a sliver of moon, as Liam's car pulled up on the dirt track leading to Ashton Mill. A chilling silence descended upon us, broken only by the faint whistle of wind through the broken window panes. The smell of dampness and a bone-chilling cold immediately assaulted us as we pried open the rusted iron gates and stepped inside the grounds. It felt as though we had crossed a threshold from the world of the living to a place belonging to departed souls. The beams of our flashlights danced across colossal, dust-covered and rusted weaving machines, the looms standing silent like slumbering monsters. The stained brick walls were covered in crude graffiti, cryptic messages, and grotesque images. Every step we took on the decaying wooden floor echoed with a spine-tingling creak in the stillness. We started hearing strange sounds, the wind howling through the shattered windows like sighs, the steady drip of water from somewhere in the ceiling, and occasionally, a soft rustle as if someone was whispering in the distance. Then, as we ventured deeper into the mill, we saw footprints in the thick layer of dust. They weren't our shoe prints. They were smaller, and they seemed to be heading in a different direction. A cold sense of unease began to creep into our minds, like an invisible hand lightly touching the back of our necks. We looked at each other, our eyes filled with apprehension. But curiosity still outweighed our fear, and we continued our exploration. We climbed the rickety wooden stairs to the third floor. The air here was even colder and damper. A long, dark corridor stretched out before us, with closed doors lining both sides, all covered in dust. At the end of the corridor, we saw a door. It was slightly ajar, and something glinted under Liam's flashlight beam. It was a small metal object, maybe a key or a fallen piece of metal. Liam cautiously approached the door. Just as he reached out to touch it, a blood-curdling scratching sound echoed from within. It was a dry, sharp sound like fingernails scraping violently against wood. We both froze in our tracks, our hearts pounding in our chests. The scratching repeated, this time louder, as if trying to tear through the door. A primal, instinctive terror surged through us. We didn't need to look at each other to know it was time to leave. We turned and fled back towards the stairs, our footsteps echoing wildly in the dark hallway. It felt like an unseen presence was chasing us, its cold breath on our necks. As we burst through the iron gates and jumped into the car, looking back at the towering silhouette of Ashton Mill against the night sky, we knew that what we had experienced was no mere prank. The chilling scratching sound and the feeling of a ghostly presence in that abandoned factory haunted our nights for weeks. We never dared to return, and deep down, we both believed that a supernatural force truly resided within those crumbling walls, forever guarding the dark secrets of Ashton Mill. The shadow of Ronnie Red Alvarez still looms over my life, an indelible stain even though he's behind bars. The day I slapped the cuffs on him, the man they called the city's nightmare, I thought I was a hero. A bitter victory, I realize now, because just a week later my world shattered. Connor, my 9-year-old son, vanished. I still remember that fateful afternoon with chilling clarity. Connor got out of school at 3. I usually picked him up, but I was stuck at the precinct that day with a new case. My wife Sarah called me in tears, her voice breaking with every word. Connor, he didn't come home. The terror of a father hearing that his child is missing, imagining the worst possible scenarios, is a black abyss that no words can ever truly describe. The 10 days that followed were a living hell. The relentless search, the flyers plastered on every lamppost. The desperate, fruitless calls to friends, family, anyone who might have information. Sarah's swollen eyes, my sleepless nights, filled with nothing but horrifying images flashing through my mind. Then, the news I had always dreaded arrived. An informant whispered that Alvarez, even from inside prison, still had ways to contact his crew on the outside. He had ordered Connor's kidnapping as revenge for me daring to touch him. Guilt gnawed at me every second of every minute. I was the one who had put my son in danger. If I hadn't arrested Alvarez, maybe Connor would be safe. Helplessness choked my heart. I was a detective, my job was to protect people, yet I couldn't protect my own son. A constant fear, like a venomous snake, coiled around my mind. The rest of Alvarez's gang were still out there lurking, and they could do anything for revenge. On the 10th night, when the last embers of hope within me were almost extinguished, I heard a strange noise from the basement. Our house had a damp, rarely used cellar. The sound was very faint, like a light scratching, but in the terrifying silence of the late night, it echoed clearly. My heart hammered in my chest. A fragile flicker of hope ignited, but it was quickly doused by overwhelming fear. What was down there? I crept down the dark wooden stairs, each step causing the old planks to groan with an eerie creak. The smell of damp earth and something metallic and foul assaulted my nostrils, making my stomach churn. The weak beam of my flashlight cut through the gloom. Old boxes covered in dust, cobwebs clinging to the corners. Then I saw it. In the darkest corner of the basement, Connor was huddled on the cold concrete floor. He was tied to a pillar, his mouth sealed shut with duct tape. His pale face was streaked with dirt and bruises. His wide eyes stared at me, filled with terror and a silent plea for help. A choked sob escaped my throat. I rushed to his side, my hands trembling as I ripped the tape from his mouth. Connor's heart-wrenching cries shattered the terrifying silence. "Dad," he whispered, his voice hoarse with fear. Seeing my son in such a state, a surge of rage and pain welled up inside me. I held Connor tightly in my arms, feeling his small body trembling. The scene in that basement still haunts me to this day. Connor's ashen face, his terrified eyes, the rope digging into his small wrists. It all plays out in my mind like a slow-motion horror film. We rushed Connor to the hospital that night. He was weak and traumatized. It took a long time and a lot of patience for him to recover physically. But the scars on his soul will likely never heal. Sarah and I are the same. We live with the constant fear that the remaining members of Alvarez's gang are still out there, waiting for an opportunity to strike back. Every time night falls and the house is plunged into darkness, I hear strange noises again. A light scratching, soft footsteps. Even if it's just the wind or a mouse scurrying, it makes my blood run cold. The memory of that horrific night will forever cling to me. A constant reminder of the price of my victory, and the lingering fear that the ghost of Ronnie Red Alvarez has never truly left our lives. August 15, 2022. Something very strange is going on with Mike. He's the owner of the antique shop, Memories of Old, where I work the night shift to look after the place and inventory the stock. Mike used to be such a cheerful, easygoing guy, always cracking jokes and telling weird stories about the antiques in the shop. But lately he's completely changed. He's been staying at work much later, his face always drawn and tired. I even overheard the morning shift staff whispering about mysterious visitors coming to the shop late at night, after we've closed up. They said they'd seen blacked-out cars parked down the alley next door. October 1st, 2022. Today, when I came in for my shift, Mike's office door was slightly ajar. I was about to knock to say hello, but I stopped when I heard hushed voices inside. I peeked through the crack and saw Mike sitting behind his old desk, a thick wad of cash in front of him. Standing around him were two men dressed in dark clothes, looking very suspicious. One of them had a long scar running down his cheek. I felt like something was very, very wrong. Our shop doesn't do that much business, and Mike has never seemed wealthy. Besides, those men, they didn't look like the antique collectors I usually see. October 20th, 2022. I've started noticing some odd changes in the antique storage room at the back of the shop. Items that were usually neatly arranged are now in disarray. Some nights, I hear strange noises coming from there, small shuffling sounds like someone moving things around. I've tried checking a few times, but everything seems normal. Still, this uneasy feeling just won't leave me. Among the antiques here, there are a few that give me the creeps. Especially this ebony box carved with strange symbols that Mike always keeps locked away in a dark corner. November 10th, 2022. Tonight, I have to stay late to do the books by myself. Mike said he had a sudden family matter and had to leave early. The whole shop is eerily silent. The dim, yellowish lights cast long shadows of the antiques on the walls, making them look like bizarre figures watching me. I tried to focus on the paperwork, but my mind kept wandering back to Mike and those suspicious men. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the back. The storage room door burst open, and a gust of cold air swept out, carrying a strange scent that was both pungent and metallic. The entrance to the storage room was shrouded in complete darkness, and I couldn't see anything inside. My heart pounded in my chest like it was trying to escape. November 11th, 2022. I didn't dare go into the storage room last night. I sat frozen in my small office, listening to every tiny sound. It felt like someone or something was inside, waiting. When the morning shift arrived, I told them what had happened. They looked at me with skeptical eyes, suggesting I'd just imagined things. But I know what I heard. I saw that storage room door swing open in the dead of night. November 15th, 2022. Things have gotten even weirder. Mike hasn't come to work for the past few days. His phone goes straight to voicemail. The morning staff reported him missing to the police, but there's no sign that he's left. The shop has been closed. I was asked to come in to make sure no one has broken in. When I stepped inside, the air was chillingly still and silent. That metallic smell I noticed the other night still lingered in the air. I decided I had to check the storage room. With a flashlight in hand, I slowly made my way inside. Thick darkness enveloped me, and the silent antiques seemed to hold dark secrets. When I shone the flashlight into the far corner, where the ebony box usually sat, I saw that it was gone. On the floor, I noticed some strange symbols drawn with a thick, black, viscous liquid. I didn't understand what they meant, but they sent a shiver down my spine. November 16th, 2022. Mike still hasn't been found. The police searched the shop but didn't find any clues. They said he might have just gone away somewhere. But I don't believe it. I feel like something terrible happened in that storage room. The missing ebony box, the strange symbols on the floor, it all points to something dark and sinister. I can't shake this feeling of unease. Every time I look at the closed storage room door, I wonder what horrifying secrets are still hidden inside, and whether Mike is even still alive. I don't want to work the night shift here anymore. I feel like an unseen presence is still lurking in the shadows. And I'm afraid that one day that storage room door will open on its own again.